So Mazda comes out with probably the world's worst electric car. And over the past 2 years, it had an abysmal range. What was it, like 100 miles of range? Wasn't cheap, 30,000 US dollars. Here in Australia, $60,000. Ridiculous. No one wants them. Basically, sales fall to almost zero. And then Mazda's response is this. It's truly golden. It's not a response of, hey, you know what? We messed up. That car wasn't great. We're going to make it better. It was just the alternative isn't sustainable. You can't make this stuff up. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm the Electric Viking. My name's Sam Evans. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you so much for supporting me in this situation that, to be honest, I've found very, very challenging and difficult to deal with. And honestly, that's all changed. I mean, it's still been difficult, but that my entire experience has been changed as a result of you guys. Thank you so much for everything you've done for me. I really, really have to say that. And I'm going to keep on saying it because I just want to make sure you all know about it. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, I'll put a link in the description below to the situation with the stage 4 cancer at the moment. Now, Mazda. You all know what I think about Mazda. I'm sure you've seen my video. I believe Mazda and Subaru are in dire straits for very different reasons, varying reasons. I'll make some new videos updating those things soon. Some interesting things have played out in terms of decisions that have been made over the past few months, which have changed the nature of what I've said. Not a lot, but a little bit, enough to make some more videos and advise you on those changes. However, I've got to say, I think this is really evidence of what I've been saying. The arrogance of the Japanese automotive industry here. It's truly remarkable, some of the comments being made here. I mean, really, rather than saying, you know what, yeah, okay, journalists, customers, you're right, customers, you don't want this product because it's not good enough. You're right, we're going to make something better. Make something that's at least equivalent to the lesser offerings from other brands. They don't say that. They just say, you know what, the products they're making are not sustainable. Okay. Mazda's CEO says that longer range EVs aren't sustainable. All right. Now, Stephen Loveday from Inside EVs, he had a classic gold comment here to say. He said, Mazda has been arguably late to the EV game. Now, that's got to be the understatement of the century. I love it. And its MX-30 has less driving range than essentially all other electric cars available today. This may come as no surprise after you learn that the president and CEO of Mazda USA, Jeffrey Guyton, doesn't believe longer range EVs have a viable place in the future of the world. I mean, this is from a car company. How do they not follow the technology? I don't understand it. It's really strange. Guyton, like many other smart folks in the auto industry, or pretend smart folks anyway, knows that most people aren't going to use all of their EVs range very often. He shared with Green Car Reports that people are hoping for electric cars with 300 miles of range, though he just doesn't see that as sustainable in the future. The issue is, people are used to gas cars, which they can take whenever they want, within reason, of course, without having to worry about driving range or infrastructure. Once they get into an EV and charge it at home, they'll quickly learn that they probably have more than enough range to get through the day, perhaps not enough range to make easy work of road trips. If they own an EV with subpar range, they may struggle to run loads of errands after their long commute, especially if it's cold outside. Now, there are still a significant number of people that do, longer trips, or maybe you might do a long trip once every couple of months. But if you bought the Mazda MX-30 with 100 miles of range for the ridiculous prices they're asking for it, then a road trip would be extremely difficult because not only is the range really low, but you got to remember, it's not a fast charging car. They charge at a pretty slow rate. It takes a long time to charge that abysmally sized battery, and it takes a very short period of time before you basically have to charge it again. 100 miles. Maybe you can drive 70 miles, right? Before you start to think, I think I might need to find somewhere around now. Where's somewhere I can charge it? Because you start to get worried. That's legitimate. I mean, it doesn't matter if Mazda's CEO thinks that's not a legitimate emotion, but I think it very much is. Guyton believes that once people own a few EVs, they'll get it all figured out and realize they don't really need an EV with longer range. Range anxiety may be a major concern for first-time buyers, but it should fade once they become seasoned owners. Meanwhile, the public charging infrastructure will continue to develop and charging speeds stand to improve significantly. Now that's true, but I don't see why that means people shouldn't want longer range EVs. Mazda, like many automakers, has no plans to help build charging infrastructure anywhere, though it is partnered with ChargePoint. As more and more EVs are produced, batteries and related materials will become more scarce, they say. Having a whole host of EVs traveling on city commutes while carrying a heavy 350-mile range battery pack may not seem so wise if you really think about it. But isn't this a story of extremes here? We're going from a 100-mile range EV, right, to 350 miles. People say they want a longer range EV, may not want a 350-mile range EV. Maybe 280 is enough for them. But 100 miles, that's clearly nowhere enough, especially when that thing charges slowly. Now, Mazda's MX-30 electric crossover has 100 miles of EPA estimated range, and many people have said it's just a compliance car, that Mazda didn't really take building it seriously. They just put it out there so they didn't have to pay big fines in Europe. Well, the truth is that that didn't change anyway. They still had to buy credits from Tesla. Right now, Mazda is only making a very small number of MX-30s, and they're only available in California. Even then, Californians love EVs, but they're still not buying them because, to be honest, it's just not very good. Why would you buy it? So, does Mazda have a compelling EV coming soon? No, not that I'm aware of, not that anyone's aware of. They have a CX-50 hybrid, but no EVs. Guyton is clearly hoping that in the future, public fast charging stations are available when and where needed for EVs with 100 miles of range. In other words, it's going to need to be fast chargers literally everywhere, and you're going to have to be willing to stop and wait on the side of the road with the MX-30 for an hour every time you drive 80 miles or 90 miles. Now, he claims we had the resources available to make it possible, and he says it must be a priority. It must be a priority for people to build the infrastructure needed for the Mazda's MX. It must be a priority for companies and businesses and human beings to build out the infrastructure needed for Mazda's short-range EVs. Right. He also says that the EV battery packs of the future will be smaller and lighter. While they may provide fewer miles of range, some of that will be offset by improvements in technology and the weight reduction of the EVs. That's already happening with structural battery packs. It's already happening with building EVs from the ground up, something Mazda is yet to do. Now, one of the big issues with the Mazda MX-30 EV is that it has extremely poor efficiency. It uses 18.5 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers of driving, or per 60 miles. That's a lot less than some of the competition, even though it's actually a very light car, relatively, because it has a small battery pack. Now, here in Australia, it costs $65,000, or around about $47,000 US. It's extremely expensive for the size that you get. It actually weighs around 1,450 kilos, so just over 3,000 pounds. The Model 3, on the other hand, weighs 1,760 kilos, so around 300 kilos heavier. That's around 650 pounds heavier. However, it has a battery pack which is almost exactly double the size. Plus, it's a significantly bigger car. However, if you buy the Standard Range Plus, that one weighed 1,645 kilos, so that's about 3,400 pounds, meaning it's only a couple of hundred pounds more than the MX-30 with a battery pack that's twice the size in a car that's 20% bigger. Now, personally, I think that's a pretty good solution. Personally, I think the smart thing to do would probably be for Mazda to say, well, how did Tesla do that? How did they make that vehicle light? How can we do it? How can we have a more efficient vehicle? How can we build a vehicle that people actually want to buy? And there's the rub. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and thank you for watching. Bye-bye.